Hello and welcome to another episode of Editorial. I am Shubham Chohan, filling in for our managing editor Sujit Nair this week. As the dust settles on the 2024 Lok Sabha election results, all eyes are now on the Parliament. The 18th Lok Sabha will kick off with a special session on the 24th of June, that's next week. It will begin with President Droupadi Murmu's address to both houses, oath-taking of the newly elected MPs. And in fact, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is expected to present the full budget in the month of July. Additionally, there are a host of issues already in the pipeline that are expected to be debated vigorously going forward, like the NEET paper scam, train tragedy in West Bengal, inflation, jobs, etc. Basically, this Lok Sabha is expected to be different and way more interesting than what we have been seeing recently. So let's get started and find out why. Okay, so what we'll do is look at this from both the ruling NDA and the India Alliance's perspective and the things to watch out for as far as this Lok Sabha is concerned. Let's start with point one, which is that of the NDA Alliance. For starters, remember, the composition of India's lower house is slightly different this time. While Prime Minister Modi is back in office for a third term, some of his previous cabinet ministers rather, are back. The political situation around him is not quite the same. BJP is down to 240 seats from 303 in 2019, and all eyes are mainly on two big partners, TDP and JDU. The two have a combine of 28 MPs. Total NDA is at 294, and the full numbers are on your screen. For PM Modi, running a government of consensus is a first, and this consensus would mean that he would have to take his allies into confidence, especially before passing critical bills. That's contrary to what we saw last time around, where because the BJP had a majority of its own, it did not really need to consult allies or need their support for bills. As a result, the three new criminal laws, for instance, were passed just with a voice vote, or even the bill that concerns the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. Along with these, the three farm laws that were later repealed were also passed without much debate and deliberation. A report in the Indian Express says, out of the 221 bills passed in the previous Lok Sabha, more than a third of them were passed with less than an hour of discussion. Just 16% of the bills were referred to standing committees for further scrutiny, declining from 28% in the previous Lok Sabha and well below the 60% and 71% when the first and second UPA governments were in power. Now, just to remind you, these laws concern all of us in one form or the other. So a transparent discussion and deliberation across the board is extremely essential. But what we saw instead was just one-way traffic. Introduce a bill, no or minimum debate, and before you know, that bill is already passed. This time around though, like I said, things are expected to be different. The allies will look to bargain hard and ensure they get their share and even put across their point more assertively. Like the Modi government's Agnipath scheme, which allied JDU and LJP have now already called a review for, or the 4% Muslim reservation in Andhra Pradesh, which is in place since 2007. TDP says the reservation will continue, while Home Minister Amit Shah and PM Modi himself promised to do away with religion-based reservations if they came back to power. But let's come back to the Parliament though. The immediate bone of contention between the BJP and mainly the JDU and TDP is the Speaker's post in the lower house. Reports say the JDU is ready to back the BJP's pick, while the TDP insists that it'll be, or the Speaker rather in this case, will be an NDA candidate. One of the reasons why this is being looked at closely is because the Speaker has a very important role to play. He or she is the final authority on how the House will run, who gets to ask what questions, and even decide on complex matters like disqualification, suspension and expulsion whenever the need arises. Like in Maharashtra, for example, where Speaker Rahul of the BJP kicked the can down the road multiple times on the disqualification plea of MLAs from the Eknath Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena. The Supreme Court had to eventually step in and criticize the Speaker for this. Now, rules say that the Speaker cannot be affiliated to any political party, but increasingly, the actual quote-unquote neutrality has come under question. Like in the last Lok Sabha, then Speaker Om Birla was heavily criticized for what many called unfairly targeting the opposition. Under his watch, senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's remarks on Gautam Adani and Prime Minister Modi were expunged. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary was suspended for his remarks on the Prime Minister. But BJP MP Ramesh Biduri was only let off with a warning for using really crass language towards opposition leader Danish Ali. Interestingly, as per this data collated by The Hindu, and we'll have that on the screen, the power of suspended MPs was directly almost only aimed at the opposition. Now, speaking of the opposition, who can forget this record in December 2023, where 115 Lok Sabha MPs from the opposition were suspended, 115. That's the highest ever. It's almost like all the bad apples are in the opposition and none in the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, let's come to point 2. Let's come to the Opposition India Alliance. You see, the June 4 results were more than just a shot in the arm for the opposition. Like many political pundits pointed out, they fought the elections with their backs against the wall. ED raids, accounts frozen, and whatnot. So despite that, to have won 234 seats as the India Alliance compared to just 91, that's what the UPA won, is a big jump. The Congress itself nearly doubled its tally to 99 MPs. Now mind you, the India Alliance is not in a position to form the government as numbers stand today. And underline this point, the India Bloc cannot really form the government at this point. They'll need the support of parties like JDU, TDP and some others if at all they decide to go down that path. But at this point, that's not the case. But what the increase in tally does is make their voice, which is the opposition's voice, bolder and bigger than last time. And that means holding the government accountable with a tight grip. Try and corner them on issues of public importance, like the NEET exam, which I mentioned in the introduction, where the future of lakhs of students is concerned and the Education Ministry is almost on the back foot. Or issues like unemployment and inflation, which survey after survey has shown is on the top of the mind of the Indian voter. The opportunity is ripe for the opposition to capitalize on this momentum, then just walk out of the house, which by the way was quite frequent in the last Lok Sabha. And let's be honest, they've got enough, that's the opposition has got enough and more firepower to do that. For starters, there's a strong possibility of the Gandhi siblings being in the Lok Sabha together. That's of course if Priyanka Gandhi manages to win the bypoll in Kerala's Wayanad. But other than that, there is Rahul Gandhi, Mahua Moitra of the Trinamool Congress, Akhilesh Yadav of the Samajwadi Party, Shashi Tharoor, Supriya Sule of the NCP, Gaurav Gogoi, Varsha Gaikwad. Good, solid, eloquent speakers who can really give tough arguments and take the Modi government head on. Now, one last point before we wind up this episode is women representation in this parliament. Remember, the BJP made a lot of noise about this in parliament, even passed the women reservation bill, which was just done before the elections. Now, women representation in parliament is seeing an upward trend in the last 15 years, if you look at hard, concrete data. But this Lok Sabha specifically will see slightly less women MPs compared to 2019. 74 women MPs this time, down from 78 last time. If you look at party-wise data, the BJP fielded 69 women, out of which 31 were elected. Congress fielded 41, out of which 13 won. Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress is the standout performer. It fielded 11 candidates and all 11 of them won. Many of the key women MPs I mentioned above are actually from the opposition. The BJP, on the contrary, doesn't match up to the opposition here, besides a few names like Aparajita Sarangi,
Bansuri Swaraj,
and even Kangana Ranaut, actress, if you look at how often she makes headlines. So what is the point of telling you all this? You see, a healthy, functioning parliament is critical and pivotal to a democracy. Opposition's voices have to be heard as the government goes about its business, because at the end of it, they are public representatives. With the sort of suspension and expulsion and bulldozing of laws we saw last time, left, right and center, it was anything but a sign of a functioning parliament. And given how numbers stand now, expect the parliament to not just be routine, but also pretty eventful, where many hope that voices from all hues would be heard, then silenced. And we'll be, of course, tracking that space for you. That's all we have for this episode of Editorial. Do let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.